The Farms.com Wheat Report is brought to you by Altitude FX and BASF Canada.
Good morning. My name is Daryl Beswitherick. I'm the Program Manager for Quality Assurance Standards and Reinspection here at the Canadian Grain Commission. The Canadian Grain Commission is an organization that's regulated by the Canadian government. We fall under the Agriculture Canada, and we're governed by the Canada Grain Act. Our role in the grain industry is to regulate grain quality and quantity assurance. And so within that, we have inspectors that inspect grain from coast to coast here in Canada, as well as we have grain weighers that oversee the weight of grain as it's being loaded onto vessels. The Canadian Grain Commission is going through a major change right now, starting August 1st of this year, and that change, the Canada Grain Act has been opened and it's been modernized to reflect the grain industry as it is today and all the changes that have gone on. And so the role of the Canadian Grain Commission has changed a little bit in that we are overseeing the weighing of grain, and we are no longer involved with the inwards inspection of grain going into a terminal locations. And so we were still involved with the export of Canadian grain. So all grain that is exported from the country, loaded through a terminal facility, is officially inspected by Canadian Grain Commission. So we have staff on site at the terminal locations, and they are inspecting that grain as it's being loaded onto the vessel. From a producer perspective, we are still involved with producer protection as we go forward into this new era of the Canadian Grain Commission. And so as a producer, you still have the right to have any truckload of grain going into a primary elevator to be reviewed by the Canadian Grain Commission and have that grade and dockage binding between you and the primary elevator. And that's in case there's a dispute between what you think the grade should be and what the primary elevator is paying you. As well, we still have our service centers across the Prairie provinces. We have one in Weyburn, Saskatchewan, one in Saskatoon, and one in Calgary. And you can send samples or take them right to the office, and you can have those samples graded by the Canadian Grain Commission, and you can get a grade and dockage, protein, moisture, and you can then take that information and go and market your grain. And so we feel that getting that representative sample of your grain as you're harvesting your grain this fall, take a very representative sample as you're unloading trucks into bins, and take that sample, and you can go to and get it graded. You can then take that information and go out and market your grain and to the various sources, so that when you go to the elevator, the primary elevators, and you're getting that grade from the primary elevator manager or the inspector there, you already have a CGC grade that you can compare to, and a protein to ensure that you're getting a fair and equitable grade and dockage and protein on your sample, and so that you know that you're getting paid properly. As I said, getting that representative sample is key to any grade. The Canadian Grain Commission oversees all of the sampling equipment that is at the terminal locations. We do not oversee the sampling systems at the prairie locations, but there's just too many of them for us to be involved with that. But so the Grain Commission realizes that a representative sample is the real foundation of getting a proper grade. So we do really encourage you to take that representative sample, keep it in a sealed pail in a cool location, even cold as our Canadian winters are cold. It's an advantage that we have. So I would encourage you to store that sample so that you can have that for your marketing reasons. Part of the role of the Canadian Grain Commission is to set the grades for the 20 different grains that the Grain Commission is responsible for, and wheat being the number one grain grown in Western Canada as far as acres grown, and so we set the standards for all the grains, but particularly in this case we're talking about wheat. So what we do is, for wheat, is we create a physical sample of grain that represents the lowest quality for each grade for our subjective grading factors such as mildew and frost. So for a number one CWRS, or Western Canada Red Spring Wheat, we have, it can only take a very little bit of frost and a very light mildew in it, which is very difficult to see without being at a proper grading bench with proper lighting. With that though, we create this standard so that it represents that minimum quality, so that the industry, which we distribute this sample to the entire industry, and so when they're grading, they can compare your sample of wheat with the standard. So if they visually look at it and they see more frost or more mildew than what's in the standard, then it would be downgraded to a number 2 or 3, depending how bad it goes.
The Farms.com Wheat Report has been brought to you by Altitude FX and BASF Canada. Visit www.clearfield.ca/wheat for more cereal solutions.